On this episode of Law Weekly, we take a look at the standard of legal education in Nigeria. Our guest is the outgoing Director General of the Nigerian Law School, Dr. Tahir Maman, plus the top legal events in the news. Welcome to Law Weekly on Channels Television. I am Shola Shieli. The courts have been busy as usual, so let's quickly bring you up to speed with some of the top stories we tracked last week.
We start with the supplementary elections in Anambra State. The candidate of the Labour Party in the November 16 governorship election, Ifeanyi Ubah, last week Friday secured a court order for accelerated hearing in a case against the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC), a case which challenged the legality of Saturday's supplementary election in the state. Mr. Ubah wants the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja to grant an interlocutory injunction restraining INEC from conducting any further governorship election in the state until the court has reviewed the processes towards the poll. Like some other lawyers have argued, the Labour Party candidate, through his lawyer, contends that supplementary election is not known to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. From elections, we move to another very topical issue, terrorism. Last week Friday, the trial of 3 Lebanese accused of belonging to the Hezbollah terrorist group was concluded before a federal high court in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. At the conclusion, Talal Ahmad Roda, who was arrested in a house in Kano State where arms and ammunition were found, was convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment for conspiracy and terrorist activities bordering on the illegal importation of the firearms. It is still unknown who he conspired with, as 2 other persons initially charged with him have been freed. Mustafa Fawaz, the owner of Abuja-based Amigo Supermarket and Wonderland Amusement Park, and the second accused person, Abdallah Tahini, were acquitted and discharged after Justice Ademola Adeniyi held that the prosecution failed to provide concrete evidence linking them with the terrorism charges. Staying in Abuja, the Federal High Court in another suit last week struck out the name of the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mohammed Adoke, from the suit by the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association against the federal government on the issue of expatriate quotas. NECA, 7-Up Bottling Company, and PZ Industries PLC had challenged the powers of the House of Representatives Committee on Labour, Employment and Productivity to investigate allegation of abuse of expatriate quota by various user companies. The court held that the National Assembly has a constitutional power under Section 88 and 89 of the Nigerian Constitution to direct an investigation against any person or companies, and the suit could be conveniently determined without the presence of the Minister of Justice. And 8 years after the Bellevue plane crash, some members of the family of Captain Lambert Emaswin, the late pilot of the aircraft, have dragged the airline before the National Industrial Court (NIC) in Lagos over non-payment of the compensation due to him. The aircraft was on its way to Abuja from Lagos when it crashed on the 22nd of October 2005 at Lisa Village area of Ogun State, killing all 117 persons on board. In the suit, which was filed in a representative capacity by the eldest child of the late pilot, the family lamented that despite several demands, the airline and its directors have failed to pay them their entitlements 8 years after their father died while working for the company. The family wants the court to compel the airline to pay them $90,000 and another 82 million naira as damages, as well as the cost of the suit and other benefits and entitlement accruing to the late pilot, both as air crash victim and as staff of Bellevue Airlines.
Now, there's a new book in town, one that would be good for the libraries and the reading pleasure of not only legal practitioners, but indeed the public. It's a book in honor of the Chief Judge of Lagos, Justice Ayo Phillips. The judges and magistrates of the Lagos High Court turned up at the City Hall last week Thursday to support their Chief Judge, Justice Ayo Phillips, in whose honor a book was launched. The Deputy Governor of Lagos, Mrs. Adejoke Orelope Adefulire, was present to represent the governor, while some white-cap chiefs represented the Oba of Lagos. The book, Landmark Judgments, a compilation of some of the notable pronouncements of the Chief Judge of Lagos, also attracted judges of the federal courts, retired judges, senior advocates of Nigeria, and other lawyers.
Celebration of a brilliant career on the bench and for the further development of the laws of Nigeria, we unveil this publication today.
The book comprises the judgments of the Lagos Chief Judge from 1997 to 2013, judgments ranging from cases of human rights, good governance, family law, and much more. Let's turn to another matter, law enforcement. A field survey conducted by a non-profit advocacy group, Access to Justice, has revealed that the law enforcement institutions in Lagos have fallen short of implementing the bold reforms introduced by the Administration of Criminal Justice Law 2011. Last week, Wednesday, Access to Justice spoke to journalists about their key findings and the need for more education on the provisions of the law. Many problems confront the smooth administration of justice across the country, from the hauling of crime suspects to courts before investigations, to the excessive time taken to conclude such investigations, and then the consequent remand of such suspects, the poor judicial oversight of such remand detention, which leads to prison congestion. These are only a few of the challenges. In 2007, Lagos State enacted the Administration of Criminal Justice Laws, with the aim of enhancing better respect for the rights of its citizens and ensuring speedier dispensation of justice. These laws were amended and re-legislated in 2011. 6 years after, have the reforms in the laws changed the landscape of criminal justice in the state?
We engaged field researchers who went around to police stations, went around to courts, went around to lawyers' offices, interviewed court users extensively in Lagos State, with a view to finding out the rate of compliance with these new provisions. The study reveals that the creative push for reform in Lagos State and the lofty goals and the outcomes envisaged by the legislation have not been achieved till this time. Our research validates the experience of many persons. Not much has changed within police institutions and even in the courts since the introduction of the ACJ law.
In this room, Access to Justice and Advocacy non-profit group told journalists that it conducted a 3-month research to ascertain compliance, implementation, and enforcement of the laws. It found that only 29% of police officers in Lagos are familiar with the laws. 92% of the police officers interviewed do not notify magistrates on cases of arrest, and in fact, 70% were not even aware of this requirement in the law. 96% of detained crime suspects were not told of their right to apply for bail or free legal representation, while 75% of lawyers stated that the police did not release suspects on bail, even where it was impractical to bring them to court within 24 hours. 9% of the police officers still maintain the practice of not accepting women as sureties. The magistrates in Lagos also contribute to the problem. 55% of lawyers say that many of the magistrates do not comply with the oversight safeguards in the laws concerning the 60 days adjournment for persons detained.
Our recommendation, therefore, include creating more awareness about the provisions of the law and providing training on the reforms brought about by the law amongst principal stakeholders, particularly amongst law enforcement communities. To this end, Access to Justice is collaborating with the Lagos State Ministry of Justice to conduct a series of training workshops on the ACJ law for both the magistrates and the police. The first of this workshop, which is principally designed for senior police officers, will take place sometime in early December.
As at the time of this report, Access to Justice says he found out that the medium prison Kirikiri, which has a capacity of 1,700 inmates, currently holds 2,592, out of which 2,437 are awaiting trial inmates. This is the situation in many other prisons across the states. These figures will continue to increase if the police, the magistrates, lawyers, and indeed the public do not insist on the enforcement of these laws.